Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. Fire potential impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. For today, we have gusty winds over the central Idaho mountains with gusts 20 to 30 miles an hour and relative humidity in the mid-teens to low 20s, and some isolated storms over eastern Nevada into portions of Utah. On Wednesday, the winds pick up across a large area with gusts over 30 to 40 miles an hour in the central Idaho mountains, gusts slightly lower over southern Idaho, western Wyoming, and portions of Nevada, and some lingering isolated storms in Utah on Wednesday, and then the winds pick up across southern Nevada on Thursday. Fuels continue to be very dry, and fuels are very receptive to the ongoing fire spread. Precipitation for the past 24 hours is shown here on the left, and we did have a few storms pop up along the Sierra front, and then this storm cluster in Utah. We should see a little bit more storm activity today in eastern Nevada and into portions of Utah, but still will be fairly isolated. Yesterday was a very active fire for large fire growth. We had 6 new fires for 4 acres, but our large fire growth was over 20,000 acres. The past 14 days have been very dry across the Great Basin with virtually no precipitation observed here on the left, and then the percent of normal is below below 5% of normal based on the fact that we have had virtually zero precipitation for the past 2 weeks. ERCs are quite high across much of the area, especially over Utah into western Wyoming and portions of the central Idaho mountains, where many stations are above the 90th percentile, and we do have a couple of stations above the 97th percentile. A closer look at these ERCs across the central Idaho mountains show we are almost at historical records for the time of year, and given the forecast for the next 7 days, which does level out a bit, we should hit some records in those areas, in the central Idaho mountains. Further south in the Uinta Wasatch, those values are not quite at historical records, but in the next few days, again, as we bump up against when we would normally see season-ending events, even the latest season-ending events, we will start to set some records there as well. This morning's satellite imagery does show generally high pressure in place across the Great Basin. There's this little low off the California coast that's helping to bring some of that moisture into eastern Nevada and into Utah today. Smoke impacts are shown here, again with generally west-southwest flow in place across the Great Basin. We can expect the smoke to move off to the north and east. As the southwest winds pick up tomorrow, we can see that here in our smoke trails with the smoke moving off again to the north and east. So for this afternoon, we can see a little bit of moisture still in place or moving into eastern Nevada and into Utah. Again, the storms will be quite isolated with very light precip amounts, if any. We do have high risk issued for the central Idaho mountains for gusty winds continuing there today. Closer look at the wind gusts for this afternoon, showing gusts 25 to 30 miles an hour possible over the central Idaho mountains into portions of western Wyoming. Minimum relative humidities still remain quite low, especially over Nevada, with slightly higher values over the northern Utah mountains as a little bit of moisture moves into that area today. Still quite low across the central Idaho mountains and into western Wyoming. Maximum temperatures are very warm out there for the time of year, 15 to 20 degrees above normal in some areas, highs in the upper 70s in Reno and the mid 80s across many of the other northern valleys. Here on the right, we're showing where the potential for those thunderstorms popping up could be, and again, we're looking at eastern Nevada and into the higher elevations of central and northeast Utah. On Wednesday, general troughiness over the Pacific Northwest will increase winds across much of the northern and western portions of the Great Basin. We do have quite a bit of high risk issued for the central Idaho mountains, southwest Idaho, western Wyoming, and western Nevada. Those gusts could be quite strong over the central Idaho mountains tomorrow afternoon with gusts 30 to 40 miles per hour in the central Idaho mountains there, and then breezy further south and west. Minimum relative humidities remain dry over Nevada and into southern Idaho. We will start to see some values coming up right on our doorstep, especially as we head into Thursday across the central Idaho mountains. On Thursday, that generally dry cold front will pass to our north, dropping temperatures a little bit and bringing RHs up only slightly and for a short amount of time to the central Idaho mountains. Winds will still be breezy along the Sierra front on Thursday, so we do have high risk issued for that area. Again, gusty afternoon winds on Thursday across the Sierra front and portions of southern Nevada. The winds should lighten up behind the front a bit over the central Idaho mountains, and minimum relative humidities do come up behind that front on Thursday, although again it is a dry front, but it will bring temperatures down a bit and RHs up only slightly for a short amount of time. But minimum relative humidities remain quite low over Nevada and Utah as southwest flow remains. Maximum temperatures again on Thursday will drop down into the mid 70s in the southern Idaho valleys, but still remain warm in Nevada and Utah. And maximum overnight RHs do come up just a little bit over our central Idaho mountains. 3-day precip totals are quite paltry here, just some isolated storms possible. Mainly this is today in eastern Nevada and into northeast Utah. On Friday, winds still remain quite strong over the central Idaho mountains, western Wyoming, and into portions of southern Nevada, ahead of another trough developing in the Pacific Northwest. Sunday, the winds continue to be strong, warm, and dry over Nevada as that low swings into southern Oregon. On Sunday, the low does look to cross into the northern Great Basin, but we're not looking for really any precipitation across the north. There is a chance we could see some storms into northern Utah as this low moves through, but it's generally going to be on the drier side. And that continues into Monday. Maybe we'll continue to see some showers over northeast Utah. The models have not been super consistent again with this low, so we'll just keep an eye on it for the weekend and into early next week. Right now, the precipitation totals show some of that precip coming into Utah again in that Monday time frame with that next low, but not a lot of precip coming to the central Idaho mountains really at all, or into western Wyoming. The extended forecast keeps things very warm across the western and central U.S. with below normal precipitation over much of the Great Basin, especially Utah and Nevada. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.